Hey, welcome White Oak. So glad that you are here with me today. We're doing something kind of new where each week while we're in our Acts series, we're going to sit down and talk to somebody about reading through the book of Acts. And so we're doing this for a few reasons. So I think that this would be fun just to kind of get to know each other better, for you to be invited in on some conversations that we're having around reading through the book of Acts. And we want to encourage you to be reading through the book of Acts along with us while we're doing this sermon series. So today I've invited Kyle Cannon to come in with us. He's on staff here at White Oak. And Kyle, tell him a little bit about what you do here at White Oak.
Yeah, well, here at White Oak, I work with the students at White Oak, our volunteers and leaders who lead them. And watching the 6th through 12th grade students kind of walk and own their faith and grow in their faith is a lot of what I spend my time doing and helping set that up. So, and then at home, I've got Megan, my wife, and 3 daughters. Just celebrated them turning 6 here a couple weekends ago. And Ellie, Ruthie, and Libby.
Awesome. So anything else that's you had a big birthday. His triplets and myself, we share the same birthday, so we celebrated that not together, separately together. But what else is new going on for you guys?
Loving the snow right now. Loving the snow. So okay. I've seen some pictures of people outside. Our girls are outside. They got tubes, and so they are out there going down anything that's got an incline to it. They're looking for those.
All right, that's fun. And so you talked about students. Like 3 of my kids are in your student ministry, so that's it's funny to be on the other side of that. I spent a long time doing student ministry, and now I've got Kyle ministering to my kids, and so it's just crazy where life takes us. But we want to jump in here. We're talking about the book of Acts. I asked Kyle to read Acts chapter 1 in advance for this recording. So Kyle, what was something that stood out to you as you were reading through the beginning of the book of Acts?
Yeah, so a couple things that stand out to me. One is just there's this idea of being witnesses, and then also the idea of receiving power. And you say it's at the beginning of Acts, and it's like chapter 2 is starting. Luke has written this book, and then he's telling us all about Jesus and the work that he's been doing. And then part 2 is the book of Acts, and it's like, okay, Jesus is sending out the church, and here comes their power, and here comes their mission.
Yeah, when I read that and you talk about that word power, I don't know, just something about that resonates with me and also kind of makes me sad a little bit. I think it's my own personal experience that there's just times, if I'm being honest, where I don't feel like, and that's really subjective, I know, but sometimes there's just days where I don't feel like, or I long for the kind of power that's described in the book of Acts. And I know that we have access to it. I know that God's still working in those ways, but when I read about the transformation that takes place in people's lives, the courage that they demonstrate, I don't know, that just hits me. And so I do think that really stood out for me too, when I just read about that power that they experience.
Yeah, I mean, the power, we think about the miracles, the healings. I mean, that's one of the great things about the book of Acts. It's an exciting book. I remember taking a class on Acts back in college, and it was just exciting to read about the beginning of the church. But then as, I'm rereading Acts chapter 1, getting ready for this, I'm just, I'm kind of floored a little bit at, hey, the reason that we're getting this power is to be witnesses so that we can be a witness where we're at.
Yeah, so as we think about that, Kyle, what do you think, what's it mean in 2021 to be a witness? What's it mean for you and for me to try to live that out?
Yeah, for me, where it's at right now, I think it's this: how do I neighbor well? How do I, we joke sometimes because as soon as somebody finds out that you are a minister at a church, it shuts down or changes the conversation. There's lots of...
It can happen really quick. Sometimes I get apologies like, oh, I'm sorry, because it's something that they had just said previously. Now in this context is like embarrassing for them. So it is funny how that can happen.
How that happens. And so it's just trying to figure out, I think, how do I take the good news of the kingdom, the fact that, there's hope, that there is new life, that there is salvation, all these truths that are found, and how do I help live them out and share them with the people that surround our house? Because the thing that you see over and over in the book of Acts is that the church expands when witnesses witness. And so
I think that's been the challenge for me too, is just to try to be intentional with my relationships, whether they're the people that live in my neighborhood or they're like other parents that some of my kids are like sports teams where we intersect. Just trying to be really intentional about, just being kind and being human to people. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
cool. Yeah.
that's where the power that we're looking for, I think that comes in is it's not just it goes a step further beyond the being kind. Like those are certainly part of it, but then it's the boldness to speak up and let people know a little bit of the backstory of why am I being kind? Like how do you build those bridges to the point where you can say, hey, it's because of my submission to Jesus.
Yeah. And so if I were hearing this guy, and I'll ask you, but for me, the next step would be to take it that next step, right? Would be to actually be bold and to start telling people about Jesus. I think that loving people and being kind to people, I think, or being intentional with my relationships with my neighbors and with my friends. Uh, I've gotten there. Now it's how can I start to weave in conversations about who Jesus is with them and be bold enough, because that's what we see through the book of Acts. So for you, when you think about a next step, the so what of Acts chapter 1, where do you land with that?
For me right now, it's moving into my prayer life. It's intentionally asking God to say, God, I know my neighbors. I need some help opening up those doors to have that conversation. And so, as weather warms up and going to be outside more, what does that look like? Being in the community, talking to those people more. And we live in a strange time, right? Like inviting people to church was weird before. And now it's like, well, I don't know if I want to get around with a big group of people in this
Yeah.
whole pandemic thing.
Yeah. But I love that. That's a perspective that we often lose sight of, is just beginning with prayer, right? Like you want to be bolder, you want to talk to your neighbors about who Jesus is, but you first say, my next step is to start praying really hardly about that. And I love that. It's a really cool insight that I think that more of us could have. So yeah. So again, we just want to give you kind of an honest raw look at some conversations, and we're going to continue these on for the next 8 weeks as we're in our Acts series. We encourage you to be reading along with us. Again, there's a reading plan that's available on our website. If you go to the Acts sermon page, where you can get information about reading along with us and some questions that you can ask yourself as you go through that. But we just want to create more dialogue, encourage people to be reading in their Bibles more. And thanks for joining me, Kyle. I appreciate the time today, and I hope that everybody will catch us and check this out again next week.
Definitely. All right.
All
Thanks.
right. Yep. See you guys.